All right, so we are now recording. Today is Monday, July 16th, 2018. We are on an even dozen. This is episode 12 of Top Deck Radio, which calling top or deck building philosophies. I have no words today. Keeping titles simple, and I still manage to screw it up. I am your host Thrawn, with my co-host, as always, Manifesto. How you doing this lovely evening?
Doing well, Thrawn. Hello, everybody.
Anything new and exciting for you in Hexland over the last week?
Completed a couple more cards in my collection over the last week. As far as that, I kind of did low key weekend. I didn't stream or anything because the CCS was on, and I wanted to be able to watch it. And I want everyone else to be able to watch it. And I want anyone to have to feel like they had to choose. So did no ashes this weekend. Just enjoyed some relaxing time and watching some top players duke it out.
Nice. How was your first solo stream on our illustrious Hex Twitch channel here?
It actually went pretty well. Surprisingly, we had a tie poll, pulled out what people wanted to see, since I really had no idea what to do. And we had a tie between viewers' siege attacks and drafting, of all things that people would want to see me do. They wanted to see me draft. So I gave the people what they wanted. We did a draft. I drafted a wild sapphire rowdy deck, and
Nice.
went 2-1. Went 2-1, not too shabby. So that happened. Attacked a couple sieges. I'm almost done my siege collection. Blood shards are holding me back. I only have 8. I have 13 plus of all the rest of them. The 8 blood shards though, and then I'll do one big save up at the end for the battle board, and then I'll be done with that.
You're way ahead of me then. But I can't complain since about 90% of my CSAC gain has been passive through posting and letting people beat me. I'm a little salty about the guy who defeated my siege at 1 sack. Like, come on, man, I need those. But I had 141 off the run before that, with only like 2 wins before getting taken out. So
Do you remember the name?
No, I don't. It was some PlayStation 4 player who took me out on 1 sack.
Because the PlayStation 4 player, I just checked, because I just put mine up right before we started, and JTEEL, JTEL 0, and then a bunch of numbers, just attacked mine for 1 sec as well. So just wondering if it was the same person.
I don't know.
Trying to go around it.
If it happens repeatedly, I'll keep an eye on it. But I'm like, it was a 1,000 gold absolute price floor siege. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there would have been others around that total that would have had more sacks for you to get. But
I think they're just after the gold. They're just running it's a 200 gold. Or how much is it to attack the very first time? 200 gold?
it's 40% of the horde. It'd be 400.
Yeah, so 400 gold is a chance to win 1,000. So you only have to stumble upon a really bad siege 1 out of every 3 times to make a small profit slowly. You only attack 1,000 keeps that have never been attacked before. So, I mean, I see it. It's a thing you could do. I feel like just grinding campaign is way better to make gold, though, if that's what your goal is. But neither here nor there.
Yeah, I haven't done too much in the realm of Hex lately. I'm still basking in the glory of a 3-0 that was really a 2-1 split. Well, I went 3-0 with it. The other person conceded because I won game 1, and that's how we decided it. But it was a Ruby Wild Blood Rabid deck that was just super strong, especially with 4 copies of what's the punch one that gives something +4/+4 and reverts it.
Haymaker?
Haymaker, yeah. I had Haymakers for days. So if anything got through, it was just huge. I'd be reverting the Rabid triggers. It was just a beast of a deck, the best I've ever drafted in this set. So that felt good. And moving into the news, we're running out of time for the current draft format because flashbacks are coming up. Should we start with that as far as news goes for the week?
Sure. At the bottom of the Friday update, we got one of our things that we talked about last week to come to fruition. We talked about what the likelihood of getting either a Kismet or a flashback draft would be. And a couple, 4 days later, we were answered that we will indeed be going back in time a little bit. Let's see, I don't want to say the wrong sets.
Yep.
Starting on Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time until 8/3, which is what? Is that 1 week? Or is that 2 weeks?
That's 2 weeks. That'd be Friday, August 3rd.
Yes. So from the 20th to the 3rd, we will have 5-6-6 format, which means each drafter will open a single pack of set 5 and 2 packs of set 6. They will obviously do their whole take one, pass to the left thing, or right, whichever. And then starting on the 3rd, so you don't have to wait a whole another week in between them. It ends on the Thursday, and then on the 3rd, which is the Friday till the 17th, which is another 2 weeks, we will have 2 weeks of 7-8-8 drafting to be done. Some few things to note: that if you have a draft open now, please finish it before Friday because it will be closed out, and you will receive whatever prizes you currently have for your record in that draft. So you will not be able to sneak a 9-9-9 deck against a 5-6-6 deck. I'm assuming the same will be true on 8-2 when 5-6-6 ends. If you have something up, you will just get the rewards for it, and they will close that draft out, and we will start 7-8-8.
Right.
Other than that, it will be the same as the drafting we know right now, just with different packs. So yeah, that's really the only thing to watch out for.
I'm excited for this. Maybe it's rose tinted glasses, but I think Double Scars and Hero Fall was my favorite draft format. So I'm excited to have another crack at that. I'm gonna need to see if anybody has spare Hero Fall packs they're willing to trade me. I still have 12 Scars of War boosters sitting around unopened, but I have no Hero Fall, and I'm sitting on 50 Doombringer packs. So if anybody's looking for Doombringers at this point, who knows, maybe those people exist. I have plenty of Doombringers to trade for some Hero Falls so that I can flip in for some flashbacks. Like I'm definitely going to be playing that a fair amount. Probably a little bit over the weekend. I don't have any social plans for this weekend. Not so much next weekend because I'm going to be out of town. So I got to try to get my fix in earlier into this event.
Yes, I'll be out of town the second weekend as well, the last weekend of the month. But I will have time to play Friday night, and the nights of the weekend coming up I will probably be playing, and most likely streaming most of it.
Nice.
I'm personally looking more forward to 5-6 just because I haven't a longer time. And I think I have more holes in my collection to fill from that than the 7-8-8 sets.
Yep. But I haven't bothered to check that yet, but that's a good thought I need to get back to, is taking a look at the status of my collection on those two sets, just to see if, besides the obvious money stuff, if there's any rares I can grab just for the sake of filling out holes in the collection.
Dirty collection drafting happening here.
Sometimes that's what you do when you have a Kickstarter ticket. Usually, I'm much more try hard for the times I'm paying for my draft, but if I'm burning my weekly ticket, I'll just grab whatever I want. Usually, I'll just shameless rare draft, so I have Dungeon Masters event draft prizes.
I don't have one of those weekly ticket things. Just have to fine.
The continuing benefits of shelling out all the cash I could afford 5 years ago.
I did, but it still wasn't enough. The rest of our Friday update consists of the Ashes. They are happening.
They're a thing.
When they happen. Nothing has changed. And Merry Melee rotation. We are now pretty much done. That's really weird. By the time we have our podcast, we're right just under halfway down the Merry Melee rotation, which is unfortunate. But we're in the midst of Dingleton. If you haven't gotten yourselves your dancing thriller dingle sleeves, now is your chance until Friday at noonish. I think they cut it off around there, sometime around there, noonish Eastern. I know they switch them out. And yeah, melee the same, 3, 4, and 5 wins. This is the one you have to build the deck, though, right?
Yeah, 100 card singleton, I think it is.
Yes. So don't go in without expecting to build a deck for this one. Other than that, Merry Melee your way. I was actually looking, I guess while we were talking about Merry Melee, I can add this bit in, but we'll be talking about a lot. I've been on a lot of Hex PvP tools all day, just trying to absorb information from the CCS and the meta and everything. And a lot of Merry Melees are still happening, like more than I thought would be. Not like an ungodly amount that like shocked me, but still like because on Hex PvP tools they show it as just when a gauntlet ends, not when every game fires. Right. And there's still a gauntlet ending like a couple times, like at worst once an hour, and at best like a couple gauntlets ending every hour still. So pretty solid. I thought they'd be done by now. But
I was kind of, that's kind of held me off from jumping into some of those queues for ones that are less than my favorites, is the idea of throwing $1 into the well and then not having anybody to play.
I did notice this one for Dingleton, that people are either smashing or getting smashed as well. Like it's either 4-2, 5-1, 5-0, or 0-3. Like those are all the finishes. Like it's like the person's either just demolishing and maybe having like one bad match, or just getting their butts kicked by a much, much better singleton deck, I'm guessing.
I can see that with that kind of a format.
Mm-hmm. And then that brings us to top of the Friday update. We did this one in reverse, which is the Shardsworn Showdown. Or not the Shard, jeez. Sorry. The Cosmic Crown Showdown. Bum, bum, bum. Freudian. Cosmic Crown Showdown, which is now over, but was announced on Friday to be happening this weekend. And that's, well, it doesn't really bring us into that because we still have to do community news. But Cosmic Crown Showdown happened. That's your Friday update.
That you did. So I've got the Hex PvP tools here. I'm going to flip to that. So,
what's up, Crafty?
This is the top 8 from the Swiss rounds, as you can see here. We had Yasi coming in first at 7-0. Karl Marx ISM 6, Life SSBM, Sadistic also at 6 wins. Arkaz, Captain Rolfio, Dead Guy Zed, and Tall were the 5X winners that got in, and then a whole bunch of other people at 5 wins, rounding out the top 16, but not having the tiebreakers needed to bust into the top 8. So you've looked at this more extensively than I have. What stood out to you as the remarkable things you wanted to talk about in this CCS top 8?
All right. Well, for starters, I want to say thank you to Snake and Hacky for shoutcasting. To probably, I don't know if the second day went as long as the first, but it was probably at least 12 hours of casting through combined for the whole thing. So shout out to Snake and Hacky for that. Congrats to Yasi, who I see in chat. Congrats to Yasi for phenomenal showing at the CCS this season. Only undefeated deck, going on his good old sticky blood diamond board, Marshall Josephina list that he's been running. So a couple things that stood out. First two things is that, well, that's not first and second place, but according to how it's listed on Hex PvP tools, Yasi and Karl are both on decks that they've been just grinding the crap out of the bashes and other tournaments with for months now. Yasi on Blood Diamond, like I just said, and Karl Marx ISM on Candles, just relentlessly learning those decks to the point where they are just you can put those decks in anyone's hands, and they're good decks. But these two have just made an art form out of playing these two decks. I don't know if anyone else actually ran Yassi's deck in the CCS. I forgot to actually look for that specifically. But I know there was at least 3, maybe 4 other Candles decks, and I think the next highest place one's 36th.
So I'm just skimming through Yassi's deck, and the first thing that jumps out to me is recollections of Spectral Attendant, a 1-cost 1/1 rebirth, and Giant Centipede, a 2-cost 1/1 sack another troop. This gets +2/+2 this turn. Like, I totally understand why both of those cards are in this deck. Looking at those cards themselves, those are not cards that I think anybody said at the time that those sets came out, oh yeah, that's going to be a constructed playable card.
Yeah, I think Spectral Attendant might have had a slightly better chance when people saw all the Lily Grove stuff and thought that was going to be a super, super strong archetype. But that never really came to fruition. This is pretty much the closest thing I think we'll ever get to until we get more cards that might help it, to a Lily Grove deck, but it only runs 1 Lily Grove card, so take that as you will. I don't consider it really the Lily Grove trope. It just happens to have Lily Grove warded in it and does make phantoms, but I feel like when they made all the Lily Grove cards and the rebirth, they were expecting a lot more synergy between the cards to be found and played, and not that there isn't synergy there. I think there's just too much other better options that stops that synergy right now. Wait, let's see what else.
Yassi's, I guess for the sake of our podcast listeners, a little bit more too to explain because you can't see the screen. Yassi's deck is Blood Diamond, sacrifice all the things, create all the phantoms, use Zorath's Rectory to make dreadlings that buff the board, swing over for overpowering damage, and when all of your dreadlings die thanks to Lily Grove Warden, they ascend into being replaced with phantoms. So you're trying to go wide, you're keeping all the bodies, you're getting more and more value the longer the game runs. A lot of people have probably seen some version of that deck before, but just in case you're not seeing it, then Karl Marx ISM, as you'd been talking about, was running your stock candle deck that everybody should know by this point if you're listening to our show.
Yeah. Other things to note for the Swiss portion, Karl Marxism's only loss was to Yasi. Life's only loss was to Karl Marxism. I believe Sadistic's only loss was also to Yasi. Yes, and that's all the people that took 1 loss. Everyone else has 2 or more. So, I mean, the top 4 really were the best of the best, only taking losses. I mean, I didn't see the ending of the Swiss. I didn't get to see any of these games in the Swiss portion. I got to see the beginning, but didn't get this far. I had to go do some personal stuff. But it's clearly very good. The other notable mentions, Life SSBM was on Reanimator Ka, and Sadistic was on almost full mono blood. It has a splash of Sapphire in there. It's the discard control with Mysteries Book and Engulf to take care of Brilliant Annihilix, I'm assuming, is probably the main reason that's in there. It's also running some Clutch of Dendrith in the sideboard. It's very similar to a deck I saw Ali playing with, but Ali main deck clutches and a couple other different cards. This is much more of a straight discard version of it.
It's got a couple Brides of the Damned, a couple Hero Falls in it. Weirdly enough, this is the one control deck I could actually see myself playing. Like, listeners of the show will know I have repeatedly said I hate control decks. I'd play this. You've got some troops. You can kill some things. Just I kind of like blood control more than Sapphire or Diamond control.
Blasphemy.
It's something about blood's way of conducting itself, I guess, that appeals to me more from a control standpoint.
And then, just looking around, some other things that jumped out at me. I wrote this down in our show notes. I gotta find it. In the Hunt, what I consider one that was in the hunt for the top 8, which I marked down as 6, or well, I actually included 6, 7, 8, but from 6th place to 20th place, where I drew the line, looking at it, there were a lot of control and momentum decks. Some of the control may be more like control-y into mid-range, like with the Sapphire Ruby that plays like Candlelight and stuff, but for the sake of argument, I'm just going to call them all decks. Between 5th and 20th place, 12 of the decks were either momentum or control, 3 of the momentum, 9 control, and then the other, I believe, 3 decks, I think, were all refuel. Arcaz on Rihanna and a Flame. Tau was on Rabid Rider, so it's another wax cannon. And Martin Eco was also on Rihanna and a Flame. Not re.
Dead Guy Zed ran pretty much its stock or close to momentum list, but I guess made it a little bit more control-y with some more annihilates in there. Like you're trying to, that's interesting to wipe out the whole board, chasing the rainbow to wipe out everything, and then you're using Limerick the Lewd instead of the ubiquitous Lady Avalanche.
Yeah, this was definitely a momentum to just like stop attackers to make big troops, with the end game, I guess, to annihilate, play Chase the Rainbow to make 10-10s, and Limerick something else back into play to support them. I don't know. I wish I had seen some of these games, because I want to see if that's what he actually ended up doing. Like if annihilates were just in there as literal last ditch efforts to just reset the board.
Right.
Because it makes sense if you just hold the Chase the Rainbow once you know you're going to get to your 10, annihilate, play that, and you're making a 10-10 every turn. I mean, that's hard to fight back against. I know, because I had to do that in my last game of my draft. Someone dropped Chase the Rainbow on me, and I had to somehow win. It was terrible.
Yes, he's suggesting the end game is basically to get out the gold elemental from Chasing the Rainbow, use the charge power to make it invincible, and then annihilate. So get 10 health. Everything is gone except the gold elemental, and then smash over. And that'll do it for you.
There's Hacky coming into chat. Hacky, how you doing? We thanked you. Many thanks for your long days of casting over the last 2 days. I think that's most of what I gleaned out of looking at for the Swiss part. Do I have anything else written down? Oh, there was one other thing that got written down, and I spaced it out. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, there were 3 Sugar Rush decks played, which a lot of people thought were going to kind of really be a thing, and they were not. The highest one placed 47th, and then the next one got placed 53rd, and then there's one dead last. There's another one there at 74th. Apparently, either there's a couple things that could happen. Obviously, we don't know every player's intent when they joined the CCS. Maybe they weren't playing to win. Maybe they got the ticket, they played the first game, lost, and just said they were done with it. But I, being one of them, really thought that Turns was at least going to give some people some headaches towards the top, but it has apparently ceased to be a presence.
Yeah, 4 Blackberry Knight decks. They had 15 matches played and a 20% win rate. So yeah, not a strong deck in this particular tournament.
That's I think was my last note that I wrote down. Oh, and I think I figured out why this happened. It was just like a funny little side bit. Someone, I won't say names, we don't have to look into it, was definitely just passing wins, it looks like, in the game, and someone else went into the game with a full list of shards, nothing else, and won a game because they happened to get matched to each other, and the person just passed the win without looking, I guess. And so there was 60 card shard deck that went 1-4.
I also pulled up the draft replay portion of this that you sent me the link for, and I'm going to drop the link in chat here if folks want to jump through this data in more detail. This is real nice because you can go through it pick by pick. But was there anything in particular from this section that you wanted to call out? Because I don't know that we want to go, through every single pick for every single player.
Yeah, I just sent this to you so we'd have something up for the video viewers. Also, to show that people didn't know that this is a thing. And once again, Fred Hex, person who runs Hex PvP tools, huge shout out because we were able to do stuff like this thanks to him. Really, the only things I wanted to really point out was, again, Yasi showing us what's up.
There were two people who had spiritual servitude first pick.
Yasi stuck with his blood diamond. I don't know if that probably mostly coincidence, but he took the entire CCS on blood diamond. But it's not super easy to stay in 2 shards drafting this set. He was the only person, I think. I watched most of the second day. I did miss the first few matches of the 8 players playing, but I saw everything else after that. So I didn't see every single person's deck. Some of the people that lost in the first round I missed, but I'm pretty sure everyone at least ended up splashing into a 3rd shard. Yasi the only one staying in 2 shards and showing that the consistency in this set of drafting 2 shards over trying to get fixing and playing that 3rd shard is inherently just really strong. Not taking away anything from Yasi's playing, because obviously anyone who watched those matches, dude was on fire, just like hitting it perfectly every game, mostly every game, every match at least. And but yeah, the staying in 2 shards I think helped. Definitely did not hurt. I was in Discord with him and someone, and Karl, I think it was actually him and Karl Marx talking about the draft earlier today, and just reading him talking about the picks he made and the choices, and as things came around, he realized how big Blood Diamond was. And also acknowledging that his seat at the proverbial table was very lucky, that he thought if he had been sitting anywhere else in the circle, he probably wouldn't have gotten those shards so easily. But it's really cool to listen to people who really know what they're talking about, limited talk about drafting, because I'm not foreign to it, but I'm definitely not at this level. And it was exciting. And the glass games are super exciting. I'm so glad I got to get home and watch the shoutcasting of the last couple rounds, because they were really good. And if you missed them, I highly suggest going on the Hex TCG channel and looking at the VOD, and at least going and watching the semifinals and the finals. They were really good games.
Yep, and I stole this from Snake's Twitter, but this was the image for the top 8, which your camera's kind of blocking, but we had Yasi versus Life SBBM, Arkaz versus Karl Marxism, Tal versus Captain Rolfio, and Dead Guy Zed versus Sadistic. Here, I can zoom in and still not be super increasing my browser. So they squared off. Yasi versus Karl Marx, round 2. Yasi wins. Captain Rolfio versus Sadistic. Sadistic wins. Your championship was Yasi versus Sadistic. Yasi takes it. Blood Diamond, Mistress Erevan.
And someone actually did suggest that, I think, at the end of the broadcast, hacky, put the thresholds there in that picture, and went back and did it. And I was right. Yasi was the only one that stayed on two shards. Everyone else at least dipped a little bit into that last shard, or a 3rd shard. I think at one point I even saw someone playing 4, but I'm pretty sure it was solely to bring in a jousting against Yasi's Annihilix. It was ridiculous. Yeah, so this exec was really consistent as well. I saw that game.
So yeah, congrats to them. And while we've been shameless plugs early, and I'm not even plugging for myself here, but all of this valuable data is brought to us by Fred, courtesy of Hex PvP Tools. Costs him roughly $150 a month in hosting fees. He's only at 31% of having that cost reimbursed right now by the Hex community. There's this lovely donate with PayPal or become a patron buttons right here. I am a supporter of this site through Patreon, so I chip a few bucks a month in every day to make this happen. If you find this kind of data valuable to you, I suggest you do the same. And no, Fred gave me absolutely nothing for that endorsement, so it's straight up. I think it's worthy, and I'm not being a paid shill.
Yeah. So, any other last thoughts, questions from chat about CS?
Hacky's pointing out all the CCS Twitch VODs are available on this channel, aka twitch.tv/Hex TCG. Stop by at your convenience and watch some great constructed content from the community and Hacky and Snake shoutcasting it. But anything else on official news? Or you had one item in community news?
Yeah, we do. I did have one thing.
You did not send me a link for, so I was not sure where to go with this.
Link, please. I'll send you a link, or I'll just post the link in chat real quick.
If you would kindly. And you'd have to take the lead on this, because like I said, no linky means Thrawn can't read up in advance on it.
Well, it's community news. You should be reading community stuff like I do.
Thrawn doesn't know everything about the community? For shame! And this guy has the nerve to stream on the official channel twice a week.
The nerve.
Kick him off.
The worst. All right. I got it.
Literally the worst.
Boom. Let's give you... There we go. Okay, so this is just something that I saw popping up. You guys may have seen him around. His name is Cruel. Crull. I believe his channel is Cruel8. No, CRULL001. Hex.tv/Cruel CRULL001. He is a newer streamer to Hex, and he really likes to dabble in the PVE-ness, much like some other past and present streamers. He does wade into some other stuff, but he started his own little WordPress blog, and just wanted to, because basically anyone that's doing anything positive for this game right now deserves it. A little shout out, a little spotlight thrown his way. He's got just a couple blog posts up now. He's got 2 on some PvE farming. He's got one on a free-to-play tournament guide that kind of goes over how to get into and what you can possibly glean out of some of the more lesser played weekly tournaments, or like during the week, like the
Fight Night's in here as an
Fight
example.
Night. Thank you. Exactly. And he also streams. He streams a little later too, so I host him a couple times when I'm done. And so if anyone's interested in, since he's also a new player, he kind of on the more similar mind track to other new players that might want to see what they could expect if they were to jump into Hex. Like, not going to see like what people like me and well, other names that some don't stream and some are still streaming, but like, you're not going to see a bunch of high-level competitive bash decks. You're going to see PvE stuff, like lower-cost siege defenses being built, things like the Fight Night, bunch of rock tournaments, stuff like that. So
there's a deck strategy article about a Frost Ring deck.
Yep. So
framed around.
Like I said, anyone doing anything for the Hex community, either you can let us know, or I eventually find out by perusing forums and Reddit about you, and we will try to get the word out a little more.
Yep, we want to feature content creators, so check out that site. I'm going to put the link in the show notes so that people checking out our show later as some people do. I still have download numbers, so it's not all the live audience. They will know how to find it. All right, excellent. And then, yeah, so we have a couple discussion topics for the evening. Again, lighthearted stuff as with it, as our episodes are probably going to tend towards the shorter side going forward, unless there's official news or we have a special guest on. At some point, we're going to have Team Jedi on as a guest. It's just entirely around when his travel schedule allows him to have a night. So, it's an open invite to him. He's not locked in on any day on when he's going to come, but he does, whenever he does have a Monday night free, at some point he'll be joining us. But otherwise, we're still making plans for other stuff. But just wanted to let people know not to expect like 90-minute, 120-minute Top Deck radios to be the norm, probably for the next couple months. But for tonight's discussion topic, I thought we've done a dozen episodes of this. We've never really talked about this that I can recall, but theories and kind of our methodology to how we build decks, because between my show Dungeon Masters of Entrath and your action with the Shardsworn Showdown, the two of us have built a lot of decks, and we've had to build a lot of decks in a non-conventional way. So I just kind of wanted to have an open conversation with you and take questions from chat on when you're designing a deck, how do you go about figuring out what kind of a deck you want to build? What is your thought process on how that comes into action? It's a real kind of open-ended question for you.
All right. Well, as far as the Shardsworn goes, it's a very interesting. It's such a unique thing because it's different than any other deck building that I've ever had to do. Obviously, we have really ridiculous rules most of the time. Sometimes they're a little more lenient. Sometimes I have to take copies of rarities into consideration. Sometimes I don't. But for that, the honest answer is really not that complicated. I usually take whatever the rule is and figure out, because usually it revolves around some type of keyword or some type of concept, and really just type that into the search bar. It seems so like you pulled back the curtain and you saw just the old man Wizard of Oz just sitting there controlling the giant head, but it's the truth. For example, one of our best shows we did was the rule where the card had to have draw a card on it. We could only play cards that drew card, or in some way said draw a card on the card. Right. So obviously the first thing I did was just went onto the search bar and typed in
draw a card.
No, just draw. I just typed in the word draw, and I just looked at the list for a good 10 minutes and saw, and realized there's a lot more cards. I thought this was going to be a very narrow thing, and I thought the deck building for Shardsworn Showdown would have been a lot more handholdy than it ended up being. There were some weeks I typed stuff in and realized there's hundreds of cards that fit these rules. And it's not just going to be oh, we're both just going to have pretty much the same deck. We might make a couple of different choices. There were weeks that we had completely different shard bases, that we had completely different, just everything. Nothing was the same. There would be nights it was aggro versus control, but still in the same rule set. So for starters, it was way more open-ended than I ever thought. So after I kind of take a big look at the cards, I just try to find familiar themes, because me and Marty both decided early on that we didn't just want to play watered down meta decks or just straight meta decks against each other, because then what would that show really be? It would just be watching anyone just play on the ladder. So sometimes we made actual knowledgeable decisions to avoid certain decks and archetypes and look for weirder, crazy things. like the Blightbark Burster combo from Gallows Ash, trying to get that to work. Like, it's clearly a thing in the game that was supposed to happen, but there really isn't any support for it, so how do you make support for it?
Mm-hmm.
Like that. And then a lot of times when I'm deck building, I just have like go-to cards that I really love, and if they happen to fit there, I just build decks around that. Like, prime example for that's Hailstorm. I love Hailstorm. Hailstorm is a great card. It can be used in lots of different decks. It does require a lot of Fate Weave, so it does put like a crutch on you. Like, you can't just put it anywhere, but you can always start with cornerstone cards like that and kind of build out from it. And that's usually how my more broad approach to deck building is. And that's how I like to build decks on stream or for people. Like, if someone is new to the game and they want a deck, and they ask me, I always ask them either two things, like what type of deck do you like to play, and then like we'll look through the cards and like find some cards that like, you know, speak to you. I'm doing air quotes like people can see it, and then get like one or two or maybe even three of those cornerstone cards in the deck and build out from there. But that's what I like to do when I deck build personally. There's cards I know I want to play, and I just make it happen. These obviously aren't for like my competitive tournament decks. These are just for decks I like to build and I like to play.
Right. Yeah, I'm of a similar vein. I think there's, you know, all the decks I've built for Dungeon Masters of Entrat, there's a couple variables that go into it. Like, my decks have never been as locked into a specific rule set as yours have been. The 5 towers of my show are much wider, overarching rule sets that I can work within. But then my typical first question when I'm thinking about making a deck is either, is there a specific, well, I'm looking for one of three things. Are there specific cards I want to play? Is there a specific archetype I want to play? And now I'm making a fool of myself because I said three things and I can't remember what the third one was. Specific cards, specific archetype. Yeah, wow, I'm special. We'll say two then. Those are the primary two, and if the third comes to me, I'll say so later and try to salvage my dignity here. But then, you know, within an archetype, I guess the third one would kind of be, how can I do something weird or strange with the existing cards that maybe, you know, is a less obvious archetype? For example, if I wanted to make a deck that only has unblockable troops, or I have one deck where there's 0 troops in it, except a bunch of actions that make troops, and I'm trying to kill you with troops that I generated off of actions. You know, just trying to figure out, okay, what's my weird angle going to be for a deck? And then trying to see what cards exist to facilitate that crazy, stupid idea that I have. And then build from there. And for non-competitive decks, you know, for just your casual streaming or Shardsworn Showdown, are you just basically, you know, slapping together a list and going with it, or have you ever bothered to do extensive testing of it?
Oh yeah, I always test my decks, which is really hard sometimes, especially the TSS, because obviously the only way, I mean, you could find, like, obviously if I had infinite resources and time, I would just find someone to desk tech with me and, you know, hope they would. It'd be hard to find a third party to care about something like that, since it's like, you know, your stream, but like you could find that friend that could help you desk test, but most of the time I just end up deck testing against the practice decks. Because I mean, even if you're not getting a perfect representation of, because obviously they're not playing in the same rules that you're playing in, so their decks most likely are going to crush you, but you still get to test like your draws, like your play curve, like did what you put together on paper actually happen, like right, in real life, or did you think, like, did you realize that your whole, like, say like a lot, when you're playing against the computer, you kind of just have to ignore the fact that they're stomping you or that you're going to inevitably lose the game, and you just have to look for the spots in your deck that have weak hinges in them. Like, did your deck fall apart because you didn't draw a specific card? Did you realize that you accidentally built this paper card deck house that completely crumbles to pieces if one card's removed? Because a lot of decks, and especially being someone who really likes to play and control in combo, I think these decks are amazing because I'm looking at all the cards, I look at all the interactions, and then I realize if I don't draw one or two of those cards, the deck is trash. But it's hard to see that when you're looking at all 75 cards at once because you're just assuming in your head, oh, I have all those cards. But in actuality, you play like what? You might draw, if you're not playing a draw go deck, you probably draw between 20 and maybe 30 cards a game. So if you play all four ofs, you probably hit almost every card, but you might hit the card you need too late or too early or whatever. So just the practicing helps see how your deck plays out. And I've always tested, and I feel like that's something you always have to do. You just build a deck and go with it, you're most likely going to have a bad time. I used to think that was a bad thing to stream too. And then I realized, actually not that long ago, it was when I started doing a lot of Frosting Arena on stream, that people don't mind seeing that. Seeing like the deck building process. Like I used to not overwork myself because that sounds like I do a whole lot, but like every like Sunday I would sit down and be like, okay, do I have all my streams this week? Like, do I have my Shardsworn Showdown deck? Do I have the constructed deck or two I'm going to ladder with? Do I have the Frostring Arena deck I'm going to do my Frostring Arena stream on? Campaign deck I'm going to do the campaign stream on? Like, do I have all my ducks in a row? And I used to like stress out like, oh, I have to recycle another deck because I don't have time to build a whole other deck. And then like maybe like a month ago, I just started building the Frostring Arena decks on stream. Like I was just like, this is the card we're going to use tonight, guys. We're going to build a deck. And two things happened. One, I realized a lot of people like having input into your decks. Right. I like ducks in a row. They like having input, and I feel like it's almost more inclusive to your viewers to see that and have them like, maybe you built a deck and someone out of left field is like, what about this card though? And that's like the card that makes your deck click. And I feel like it probably makes them feel really good when that happens. Like they saw something you didn't see and they contributed, and now you've both created this thing together. So now all of my Frostring Arena decks I build, I just do it on stream, and a lot of times that means I go into the Frostring Arena and I get my butt handed to me twice really fast in a row, and we're just like, well, that didn't work. So we're just gonna go back to the collection screen, and we realized, like, I mean, my last one I did was a Wrath of Zakir deck. You know what that is? It's a PVE card that's a 8-drop, I think, and it does 5 damage to everything that's not a dragon, including your opposing champions, and summons a random dragon. So we were basically building like a Sharkmart ramp into that deck, and the first one we did, it was just too much on the charge gain, and charge and ramp, and I was sitting on like perfect, like I was hitting like my 8 threshold or my 8 resources and my charges like really well, but I was never getting Wrath of Zakir in my hand. I was like, up
on screen.
So we had to go back to the drawing board, and we ripped out like we ripped out like a third of the ramp cards and put draw cards in the deck. So then, when we went back in, we had a much better time because we were hitting our Wrath of Zakir more frequently. We were still hitting our thresholds most of the time. We were still getting super smoked by aggro decks, though, so we had to leave again, come back in with a couple smaller bodies, So I mean, every deck building is trial and error, but I mean that's the best part, right? I mean, if you hit the perfect deck on the first go at any time, where would the fun be?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Watching someone else's creative process and experimentation is more entertaining as a viewer than here's this deck that we all already know is going to be pretty good. Now let's watch somebody run this same deck over and over again. That's why usually people like grinding ladder matches with a known meta deck. That's not a stream that's all that interesting to me unless I really need to understand how a deck works. I like the more esoteric or the weird, the creative kind of stuff like what you're talking about. I did one stream once on my channel where it was like 3 hours of nothing but making decks for Dungeon Masters of Entrath while I'm streaming this, saying, "Here's my dumb idea. How do we build this?" And I had people give me feedback and ideas. And I don't have an ego. I will admit that the majority of those decks ended up far better with the input than what they would have been if I was just making those in my solitary corner of the universe without the extra input.
Yeah, having lots of different people have input on decks, getting to see other people's ideas. You have to find the line of you can't just do everything everyone says, like, because eventually it stops becoming your deck and starts becoming someone else's deck. But I like having the input and thinking about it, and then sometimes, like, I've had times where I was building a deck and I get input from somebody else, and I don't remember if this was on stream or off stream or if I was just talking in Discord or talking to friends, but they had such a good idea for the deck, but it changed the deck so, like, going on its original trajectory anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one of the beautiful things about digital TCG. I just added those cards and then, renamed it. So it's basically like the save as button, and then came back to that and started working. That became a whole different deck down the road than what we were building that night. And so I was still able to continue with that, but I acknowledged the idea. It was good, but I was just like, that's not where we're going. Definitely come back to that.
Right. Asterisk Online here asked in chat, what is the best place for deck building help? I mean, Havoc answered Discord and forums. Any other resources or thoughts to add on to that?
Well, you know how I feel about the forums, but Discord definitely.
Yeah, the Wardens of Entrath Discord in particular, because that's the only one I read with any frequency anymore.
Yeah, especially if it's PVE deck. Wardens is definitely a good place to go. I feel like places like Discord with instantaneous answering is better than a forum situation. Unless you have, it depends on what you're doing. And you want people's opinions about the deck, by all means, posting it in like a Reddit or forum situation will get you criticized feedback on the deck. But if you're actually looking for advice on deck building and you're actually building the deck, Discord's a much better tool for multiple reasons. One, you might even find someone who's willing to just screen share with you and get on the voice chat and actually talk to you about deck building. And two, you are able to ask questions and immediately have people see it and answer, assuming, they're online. But it's just much more of a conversation as opposed to...
Right. It's a little more live and interactive than forums tend to be.
Yeah.
God, I resisted hopping into Discord for the longest time, and now history has proven me really stupid on that because I've got so much valuable feedback and advice. It's been good to bounce, opinions off of people. I've used it for Hex. I've used it for Dungeons and Dragons session planning. I've used it for online co-op with my brother who lives in Spain. Yeah, I'm an idiot for not jumping into Skype, or not Skype. Discord is the Skype killer. I should have jumped into Discord use a lot sooner than I did.
Yeah. And Crafty said, and I agree, the Prismatic Conclave is another Discord I'm a part of. It's a little more guildy than open forum like the Wardens is, but they definitely have their S together when it comes to the PvP side of Hex. I think I don't remember what they were talking about. I think it was either it was the one of the Clash or Ashes over the weekend because of much of it. It was a good time. They're all definitely super knowledgeable.
Yeah. So on the one other thought I had on the subject of deck building methodology is, let's say there's, unfortunately we're in an announced delay for the next set, but as either a new player where every card is going to be new to you because you're a new player, or an existing player on the eve of a new set where we're about to get bombarded with new cards, and again, there's going to be a learning card on what these cards do. What's your kind of deck building philosophy? How do you approach a brand new set of cards or a bunch of cards that you're not terribly familiar with in terms of figuring out what things you want to be playing?
Well, for starters, there's a very well-known saying in TCG communities all around for all of them. It's an acronym RTFC. Can't say what the F stands for on stream, but it's read the something card. And it's super important. You have to read the whole card and understand what the whole card means, because, freaking. One of the biggest problems is, like, maybe not assuming, but maybe if you come from other TCG backgrounds and this might not be your TCG, you might think you know what a card is saying or does to find out later, and maybe sometimes even in the middle of a match that card doesn't do what you think it does. A really good example of that would be, I think it was our last TSS. We were playing decks, and I cannot remember what the rules were. Sorry, but I built a runic deck. Oh yeah, it was we had no attackers. You had to do no combat damage. And I was playing a spell that when it got runicked, it didn't do anything because you weren't actually playing it. Because it's whatever the trigger was, it said that it had to be played. And every time, and it happened, and of course, the first time it happened, I was just kind of like, what? And me and Marty realized it. We were like, oh crap. And, like, it wasn't a huge part of my deck, but it happened, like, 6 times over the course of the deck. And obviously, in the TSS, we're not allowed to change our decks. So, like, that's not a good time to realize that a card doesn't do what you thought it did.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say my first thing I do with every new set or approaching any new card or any new game is definitely reading and understanding what a card does. And if that means I have to, swallow pride and ask what might be seen as a stupid question, you got to do that. Because there's a couple cards and a couple keywords that wording is very important, especially when you're playing it, what I'm going to call and sound all big of myself on a high horse, a true TCG that uses, like, the chain, like certain other games and Hex does. Like, you can get some complicated stack/chain action going, and you really need to know your stuff.
Right.
Gotta be up to snuff.
I would tell new deck builders too, just as important as read the freaking card is another kind of philosophy cliche, know thyself. So know what your own play style is and what kind of things you want to get out of a card game. Do you like big stompy troops? Do you like locking out your enemy and making their life miserable with some kind of a control thing? Do you like mid-range? Have some idea what kind of an archetype or a vibe that you're looking for, and then start reading cards from there to hone in your focus on kind of the specific weapons you're looking for, especially if you do not have an established collection, you're just starting to buy into the game, and you're trying to figure out what you need just to kind of get your foot in the door. I'd, kind of do your homework to pick the 1 or 2 types of decks that you think you would have the most fun playing. And I would definitely choose fun, air quotes, because fun is subjective to each individual person. But I would choose what is fun for you over what people are telling you is meta relevant. You know, if you're going into the PvP, and start with that, and then go from there. And I'm with Crafty Dog. Crafty Dog saying I'm a big stompy bot kind of guy. I love big stompy troops. I love just throwing down the troops, making them huge, wrecking face, which is why Empower is my favorite mechanic from Primal Dawn, and Empower plus Prophecy and the shenanigans that could get people on. Oh, those were good times, man. I love doing a Prophecy and Power drafts and just getting troops to the heights of absurdity, like 22, 20s, just bashing people's faces in. I love that stuff.
To build on what you just said, there's actually a really nice way in Hex that you kind of can focus your mental powers on stuff like that. And it comes back to the search bar. If you're a new player, and after you've done the what kind of deck am I quiz, that's when the whole digital space can really come into your aid. If you open up your collection and click the button that says show all items, it shows all cards in existence, not just cards you have.
Yep.
And then you can use the search bar to say, okay, you've taken the quiz and you've become a you want to interact with your crypt. So you can type in crypt, or you can type in discard, or you can type in sacrifice. And then all the cards with that word anywhere else show up for you, even the ones you don't have. And that's where you can start reading through the entire cards and seeing where the synergies are and seeing what cards belong together. And you'll eventually find out, like, oh, the word Blightbark is on a lot of these. Maybe I should look into the shards that have Blightbark on them. And you just kind of start snowballing until you eventually have a deck.
I was just looking through my collection for, as we discussed earlier in the stream, the Hero Fall and Scars of War stuff were missing. And I just realized that in playing drafts, I would have a shot to rip off a couple more Eldurathan's Glories for my collection. And from the ashes, and I got like unreasonably excited at the idea of that.
To be honest, I would really like to figure out a way to make a deck that develops
its resources and thresholds to play high power. Well, that sounds like a ramp deck.
Ramp? Yeah, it's like, that's ramp. That is wild. That is mono wild.
That is an archetype, although it currently only exists in wild. I think if you're saying I want to do that but not in wild, well then yeah, that does indeed get a heck of a lot trickier in a hurry.
Excuse me, Sharkmart exists. Will be your seat.
Fine, Ruby and Wild. Try doing it in Sapphire, and I think it'd be a little bit harder unless I'm completely forgetting a couple cards that exist.
Now, you get the draw, but nothing that inherently ramps. You just hit more versus.
Man, I'm really looking forward to 665 drafting though. Oh my god, I really need to trade or buy some Hero Fall packs so that I'm ready for that. But yeah, so. Sorry, did you have any other thought? I'm kind of through all the mental questions I had on deck building philosophies. Were there any other, things in that vein you wanted to cover?
No, I think we hit everything. Obviously, we left out one very important thing, which always match your deck sleeves to your theme. Very important. Unless you're in competitive, then pick the opposite to throw off your opponent.
Yes.
Always. If you're running Diamond Blood, run the innovation sleeves. So they think you're on Ruby Sapphire at the beginning. Just throw them off just a little bit.
Sleeves are the great mind game. Play your off shard first, so people go, oh, I didn't think they were gonna. So before we move on to our next topic, I'm going to take a slight intermission here to give out a draft code. And so what I have done here is I went to random.org because I think this is proven to be the best way to do it. And I plopped down the viewer list from Twitch chat. So everybody who is a viewer in here is entered in. and I'm going to hit this randomize button. And if your name is on the top of the list, you have won a draft code. If you do not respond, then I will move down to the next person on the list. And if the top 2 people don't respond, then we're going to re-roll the whole thing. I will need your Hex in-game name to be able to give away a draft code. So let's randomize this baby up. Witherstench. Witherstench, are you still in chat? You must also be present to win. So let me know. Speak up in chat. Let us know your in-game name. I'm going to move back over to Talking Heads mode, but I'm going to keep that list current so that we have that to refer back to. In case Witherstench doesn't say anything. While we wait for a response there, the other kind of discussion topic for the week was what PvE cards, if any, do you think could be brought from PvE over into PvP as written, because there's no equipment in PvP, and would they still be fair and playable? So what PvE cards could work in PvP as we have it right now? And I had a few, and you had a few. Would you like to start, or do you want me to start?
Good start.
Okay. You mind pinging Witherstench to see if they're still alive while I pull up my first one?
Yep. My @W, there's no matches found, so
Okay. Then second up on that list was the stupid idiot. Hey, stupid idiot, and I'm not insulting you. That's literally your name. Are you still around? And if so, speak up in chat, and you would be the draft code winner. If stupid idiot does not speak up in chat, then I'm going to re-roll the list. And I need to jump back over to my list of who would have thought giving away things is hard. All right, so let's see, go over to the Hex stream vote. My first pick for a PvE card that I think would have a shot at being PvE playable right now is Taste of Defeat. Deploy it. You may sacrifice this. If you do, destroy all troops. At the start of each opposing champion's turn, that champion sacrifices a troop they control. So Extinction from set 1 cost 4 and was a destroy all troops. This is a 5 cost destroy all troops if you want to use it right away. So same effect, slightly more expensive, but if you don't want the immediate destroy everything, then you have the side benefit of each champion has to sacrifice something every turn. I think there's enough constant destruction available to people that if this was a PvE card in the meta, or a PvP card in the meta, people could sideboard around this. They could play to this. Runebind is a thing that exists to stop or delay this. So I think Taste of Defeat would work as an Extinction alternative in PvP, which does have a few board wipes, but nothing in blood outside of Massacre right now. So that made my list of PvE cards that could have life in the PvP competitive scene. And that was my first pick.
Basically, a dark heart.
Yeah, it is a dark heart effect as a constant, yeah.
My first one was Lightning Elemental. I now have to wait for you to find and type up. It's a 2/1 Swift Strike, if I remember correctly. It is a Ruby troop, and if it deals combat damage to an opposing champion,
do I not have one of these?
There it is. I see it on your screen now.
Oh, yeah, I have 13 of these. Derp. Okay.
Did I nail it?
Yep, I got it on screen now.
Okay. 2/1 Swiss Strike's pretty strong. For 2, okay, for starters, this question was thrown to me. I didn't have a, but I feel like this one would, and there's already like a Sapphire Ruby deck that's looking for charges that this could fit into. So I'm not 100% on my definitely 100% fair, but I feel like this is one of the more fair cards that could come into PvP and not ruin everything. I could easily be overlooking cards that these cards could combo with. As far as just being a 2/1 or a 2/1 Swiss Striker, we have plenty of aggro decks right now, so most people are already prepared for the small swingies with things like Return to Cinder, Blights, Massacres, things like that. So I don't think it'd be broken. So yeah, that was my first pick. Right. Also, it's an elemental, so it plays into the whole what's it called? The Unhinged, that deck, the Ruby Sapphire Elemental Aggro mid-rangey thingy that's been going around. Right. With Briny Rays and Unhinged and
Briny Ray, aka the Filterfish, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cheat and have you go twice so that I can send Razul a draft code here. So I'm going to pull up Volley, which you had as your second one.
Oh, now they all know what it is.
And I'll let you talk about what that is while I send off a draft code.
All right, Volley was my second pick. It's a 3-cost. This is where I think it's okay. It's a 3-cost double Ruby action. I think the threshold there kind of keeps it a little bit in check. You're also probably not playing it at 3. You're probably playing it a more critical mass of troops. It's a basic action. It is a rare. Troops you control get, when this attacks, it deals 1 damage to a random opposing champion or troop this turn. So the fact that you don't have control over where the 1 damage is going, it's kind of like a super, super weak. Not even really. It's a super, super, super weak Lasgar. It just turns your attacking, when you turn your whole board sideways with 5 or 6 troops, the ability to maybe pick off a couple blockers before they have a chance to block, maybe do a couple extra damage to the face. Like if your opponent's if they just finally found a way to stabilize against your aggro deck at 5 or 6 life and you have 3 or 4 troops on the board, you might have one that's going to get through, and this Volley might just RNG you to victory. I don't see any way where it's just super broken.
Especially with that double Ruby threshold commitment.
Yeah, I think I didn't even look at the equipments, but I'm pretty sure the equipments on this probably break the card because it seems very weak for a PvE rare.
Yeah, the uncommon equipment doubles the text effect from dealing 1 damage to 2 damage. And then the legendary trinket slot, as your volleys have summon a random Ruby Ranger, so you're also getting a troop off of it for 3.
Yeah, so that legendary equipment should say summon a random Ruby Ranger with speed, but that's just my opinion. Because it doesn't really get anything. Wait, is that to the end of turn or permanent? It's permanent.
Yeah, the summon troop would be permanent.
No, is the spell effect permanent? I think it is. You closed it already, didn't you?
I did. Troops you control get one in. No, it says this turn, so it's okay. Only that.
So, yeah, so that should definitely have speed, but still, I think it would do okay.
Yeah, that would work. So my second pick would not work for standard, but it would, because prophecy isn't really a thing so much there anymore. But it could work in immortal decks of the archetype. I would love to see more reasons to use Howling Headhunter. It is a 2-cost, single sapphire, single wild, Coyotal Warrior. It starts as 1/1. When you play a prophesied card, draw 1 card. This gets +1/+1. Then increase the bolded numbers by 1. And the number of cards you draw is bolded, and the attack and defense are bolded. So every time you are playing a prophesied card, You're drawing more cards. This troop is getting bigger. It has a wonderful snowball deck, snowball effect, and compared to some of the other shenanigans we've seen from Turbo, Psychic Ascension style decks and other things that really like prophecy triggers and drawing cards, Howling Headhunter seems pretty harmless in a format that would have kill, that would have extinction, that would have hero fall, that have a lot of other answers. Like, I don't see this card as needing to be locked exclusively behind PvE anymore. Plus, to me, it's such a fun design that I would super love to have as many means as possible to use it. Also, this art is great. I'm just going to go ahead and extend the art here on stream, as I am prone to do, so that we can just appreciate how attractive a specimen of Kyotl that is. Great piece of art from artist Dan Howard, giving credit where credit is due.
I'm actually super glad that you use this card, because I purposely got a playset to build a deck, and I never did. I completely forgot the card existed till just now, and now I wrote it down on my list of decks to build this week for streams. So maybe even tomorrow night that might get made on stream. I don't know, but I remember when this card came out and I saw it and I was like, must build deck.
There
and
you
then
go. Well,
I got 4 of them and never did.
Shoot me a link to whatever deck list you come up with, because I would love to take it for a spin myself.
Will do. Does that bring me up my last card? Or are you going to double dip now? You should double.
I can double dip with my third. Am I spelling it wrong? Let's just go adapt. So my last one is Adaptotron, which is a 2-cost artifact. It's a 0/3 by default. It has 5 different one-shot abilities. You can pay 1 to give it +1 attack and speed, pay 2 to give it +2 defense and Skyguard, pay 3 to give it +3 attack and Swift Strike, pay 4 to give it +4 defense and Steadfast, pay 5 to give it +5 attack and Crush. I think with the amount of buy-in that this card requires, coming out as a 2-drop, and then needing to spend even more resources to really make it, something strong. Again, in a standard world, or with hero falls and things like Massacre and Runebind that can revert, I don't see this card as being too broken for a PvE environment or a PvP environment. So it'd be fun to see an Adaptotron, Replicopper, artifact shenanigans deck, and see what this baby could do when turned loose in a more competitive environment. So it's kind of the classic. I think this one came from Adventure Zone 1. So this is a real old school blast from the past style PvE choice.
I wanted to see how many.
And I happen to have a spare playset's worth of them.
Me too. I got 9. I get that one all the time. I think is that Frostring Arena? That one might even be Frostring Arena.
Yeah, I don't know. It's old school. It's been in the client forever.
Nope, it's Howling's playing pack. Yep. I just have a ton.
All right.
My last
your
card
last one
is another one that I've always meant to build a deck with that I never did. Probably because I just got my 3rd one yesterday, which is why it was so on the forefront of my mind. But I'm not going to butcher this name. It's Tatalka. Oh, with that Tatalka High Inquisitioner. The 3/3 for 3 Ruby Orc Cleric. When an opposing champion gains health, this troop gets +1/+1, then deals damage equal to her attack to a random opposing troop. I feel like that's okay. I mean, it's one of those cards where if you put it in PvP, you would have to make a very specific deck to somehow trigger that, to force your opponent to gain life. It probably can't even happen right now. It's probably just not possible. I can't think of any cards that make your opponent gain life.
Right.
But it's one of those cards where I think it would be like, once that card exists, this would be like one of those gimmicky, like weird, like wax cannon, so it does double the damage when it procs type deals.
Yeah, there was a life gain archetype back in Primal Dawn, but there hasn't been anything like that since. This one, I could see this totally working as like a sideboard option in the right meta, because it's also a unique troop, so you can only have one out on the board. So it's not like you can spam these for a critical massive effect. And if somebody's playing a deck where health gain matters, you slide a couple of these into your deck to really throw them off of their game and punish them real hard for it.
Yeah. I really want to put this in, like, I just want to find all the siege defenses that have 3 mono diamond decks in it and just, like, make this deck a thing. Just wax cannon this out, be like, alright, gain life. Gain 6 life a turn. See what happens.
And so those were our kind of special. That was kind of a special discussion topic version of Cards of the Week. But did you want to also do our regular Cards of the Week?
Up to you. Dealer's choice. We can save it for next week. They ain't gonna go anywhere.
They ain't gonna go anywhere. Then I'm gonna switch to this screen. So just as a fun kind of game for chat, I took 3 different hex cards and I ran them through Google Translate multiple times to change around the text, and then ended up converting them back to English. And we're going to see how good people are at figuring out what those cards are. So the first one is a card that is not in standard. It's an immortal card. I will tell you that. And this one's probably going to be one of the easier ones to get. The text on the body of the card is destroy all the bodies. Hexangmar already has it. That one is Extinction. Destroy all the bodies. I translated that from English to Japanese to Croatian to Albanian back into English, and we got that. I'm going to do this one second because I think we're going to go in order of difficulty. Let's see here. I need to copy that. I need to copy that text and paste it in here. And try to format this so that it can be read on the screen.
Close. We're so close.
All right, so this is going to look a little messy on screen, but we'll deal with it. The next card, this is a standard card that you could play on the ladder right now. The text translated from English to Arabic to Korean to Italian back to English is that the card's text is they deal 5 damage. They damage 5 damage to the target units. The call to Rabban Knolls is equal to all the excess damage. Ravenok and Romo jumping in with Dogpile. That is correct. That is correct. All right, and this last one is going to be the hardest one. This what like Manny looked at this one and went, "What?"
I mean, different strokes. This might click to some people faster than others.
Yeah, some people might get this. I translated this one too many times to count, and I forgot to write down the list. But I ran this through at least 10 times. The card's text is large texts are prevented and cannot be targeted. Large texts are prevented.
Oh, I am frozen.
Cannot be targeted.
Did you do something to my Google Hangout call?
I don't think so. Did I minimize you by accident?
You minimized it. You minimized it, it freezes.
Yeah, I think I minimized it by accident. All right, you should be fixed now.
Cruel actually got there too.
Crawl's fast. That is correct. I'm gonna switch over to the hex view. So yeah, the translated text, large texts are prevented and cannot be targeted, came from this can't be blocked or targeted by opposing non-prismatic cards.
I like this. I think,
But Krull is absolutely correct. That is, I ran that through like 10 different languages back and forth until it came out as something basically indecipherable. And Krull got that really fast. That was brilliant analytics. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I think we should pick like harder cards and do this and use this giveaways for people to guess what they are.
Yeah, that's
I like it.
for future weeks. I think the first person to get it correct is going to win something.
We'll just pick more obscure cards, maybe ones with like a lot of text.
Yeah, throw things. I was for this initial run at seeing how Google Translate would handle things. I was a little conservative on the amount of text because like I didn't know how it would translate like different lines of text. Like, do I need to do each of these lines of text individually and then run them through the same language lines, or do it as a block?
Throw it all in there. Just throw it all in there. Delete numbers, like the things that aren't obviously words.
Right, or replace the ardent symbol with like the word ardent.
Yeah, or the ruby symbol with the word ruby, something like that.
Right.
There's some that are like, I think would come out super cool. Like that one, like the bard. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah, exalted bard.
Or the buffalo.
I can't do it now because I'm mentioning it. But one of the ones I really thought about doing was mass polymorph dingler, just because I wanted to see what it did with the word dingler when I ran it through 10 languages.
The problem with Google Translate, if it's not a real word, like a word like that, it usually just keeps it the same word because it doesn't a proper noun. Yeah. Maybe if you put dingler into German first, you might get something. You might get something out of that. Who knows? Seems like it could be a word.
Right. But I think that's going to replace cards of the week for a while, just because the idea of running text through Google Translate a ton of times. Which, by the way, this was Manifesto's idea to me, so credit where credit is due.
It was Ravnok's idea to me.
Okay, Ravnok's idea to you that was passed on, that was relayed to me. I take no credit for the origination of the idea. But Balthazar or other silly card text would be amusing. Yeah, I can think of a couple other joke card texts that would be great.
And you can dive real deep if you get like some real sweet things you want to give away. Do lore text.
Yeah, except I don't think most people are going to remember the lore text necessarily in English for a lot of the cards.
That's why I said really, really good giveaways.
Oh yeah, that's a deep dive for a Hero Fall Primal pack or Doombringer Primal pack. Figure out what this flavor text is after I've run it through 15 languages.
Hey, at least you're being nice and putting it back in English. I was gonna language.
Well, I can't exactly put up a block of Korean on the screen and then expect people to be able to like read that. You need to. Or figure out a way to copy the characters off of my screen into Google Translate to run that last leg of it themselves.
Google Translate does have a picture option. I've used it. It works okay. You just hold your phone up to stuff and it'll translate it for you, whatever's on the screen.
I haven't been to Japan in like since 2008. It's crazy to think about the amount of like translation stuff that's just come out in like the last decade to make it my next trip so much easier. But I'm still going to try to study up myself. But yeah, Google Translate, it's fun times.
Oh, fun time.
But I think that's pretty much it for us. I said let's have a shorter episode, and here we are coming up on 90 minutes. So we really didn't have a shorter episode.
It's short.
Short-ish, as in we're still over 2 hours. Any bold takes or hot predictions this week?
Not for Hex. I feel like as long as we're in this unfortunate holding pattern,
Your audio cut out there. You said last thing I heard was holding pattern.
I said, as long as Hex is in this unfortunate holding pattern, I feel like our hot takes / bold predictions will also be in a holding pattern.
Yep. That's the same. I got nothing for predictions this week. Any shameless plugs outside of the usual you want to throw down this week?
Nothing outside the usual. I will be on the main channel again on Friday by myself, possibly, maybe. The invite is open to anyone who wants to hang out via Discord chat and talk while we draft some 566. I knew I was gonna mess it up no matter what. No matter what we did, I knew I'd mess it up. 566, I think is right. Regardless, if you want to hang out in Discord, draft with me, have a good talk, see what we can do. That is open because I don't like doing shows by myself particularly like that. Other than that, it's the usual stuff.
Yep, I should be back tomorrow for Dungeon Masters of Entrath. I missed it last week for mental health reasons. I was kind of a downer day, and I don't want to put myself in front of a camera when I have like so little energy that I'm ready to just like fall asleep. Like, you know, mood had nothing to do with it. I was in a good mood, but I felt like walking 10 steps was a Herculean effort with how just tired I felt, so I wasn't going to do it. But, you know, should be around tomorrow. No issues expected. So it'll be good times. Giving away free swag for playing kitchen table games with me as always. So I know I'm putting you a bit on the spot with this question, Manny, so you can decline to answer it. Any headway on finding a guest host or a permanent host for the Shardsworn Showdown? Are you looking for somebody long term or just taking it week to week at the moment?
Here is the answer to that question. Yes, is the short answer. I have found someone to replace Marty. Due to scheduling conflicts on his part and then my part next week, we just decided to not debut it until the first week of August. So this Friday will be my last time I have to suffer by myself on the mainstream because I have to unfortunately cancel the Friday after. I will be in Virginia with my dad for our yearly dad visit. I've decided to not say who it is yet, just in case something happens. I will tell you it's someone known in the community. So just in case something happens and they can no longer do it, if something comes up, I don't want to make it seem like, you know, I said something and then they pulled out and they seem like a terrible person. And if that doesn't work out, I have had some come and say they would like to, I'm going to use the word audition, because basically everyone I've talked to, I said, this is something you can try. If you don't like it, or it just doesn't seem like it works like with us doing it, because I feel like me and Marty had a really good yin and yang give and take there when we were doing it. So everyone who's on is a permanent replacement, but could also bow out at any time, and I would not be upset, and they would be upset, because obviously we want to put on the best show we can, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. But so the short answer is yes, I do have a replacement, and we will start back in August with the Shardsworn Showdown. So look next week, even though I'll be out of town, there will be a tweet going up for a call to arms for our first rule set of being back. I do have a couple left over from me and Marty's time that we didn't use, but I would like for someone to give us a rule set for our first show back. So
Sweet.
That tweet will go out sometime next week.
Sweet. And speaking of early notice, I'll bring this up again probably in a couple weeks, but I'm going to be out of the country for 2 weeks in August. So the second and third week of August, there will be no Dungeon Masters of Entrath, and there will only be Topdeck radios that week if Manifesto wants to run the show, basically running the board and find somebody else to be a guest. So there may not be any Shardsworn. Shardsworn Showdown. That's not my show. There may not be any Topdeck radios or Dungeon Masters of Entrath for the middle 2 weeks of August. Nothing nefarious by that. I'm letting you know very early. This is a family vacation that's been 2 years in the planning. So I'm going to Ireland and Spain, and nothing short of a heart attack is going to stop me. And now I'm knocking on wood that I didn't just jinx myself into having a heart attack. Don't tempt Kismet. Yeah, that's all I got. Any final thoughts for the night?
Nope, that's it for me. Hope everyone has a great week. Hex, see you out there.
Yeah, enjoy your games. Enjoy some 5-6-6, or hopefully it's 6-6-5 in that order. Drafting, and I'm sure we'll talk about our experiences with that come Monday. But until then, have a good night, everybody.